welcome to the Idea Vault podcast. My name is Lynn George. I am your host and the director of Troy University's Idea Bank. We are excited to welcome a new guest this month. His name is L.C. May. L.C. is the National Brand Ambassador and State Sales Manager for Clyde May's and Conecuh Ridge Distillery. He is actually the grandson of Clyde May himself and really represents the entire May family. So he is going to join us in the vault today to bring us through the history of Clyde May's, how he brought the distillery here to Troy, Alabama, and the many challenges that he and his family have faced along the way. He's going to take us all the way back to the beginning when it all started for Clyde May himself. So we are excited to bring in LC. Let's get started with his interview here in the vault. Welcome to the vault, LC.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. We're glad to have you. So why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about what you do at Clyde May? Well, first tell us, what is Clyde May's Distillery? What do you guys do, and what is your role?
So my role is as the state sales manager for Alabama. I'm also the national brand ambassador because I am the grandson of the original maker. So no matter what title I'll have, I'm always, to some degree, the ambassador. But what we do is we're opening up our distillery here in Troy. We've been legally making the product since 2001, and we're getting ready to start finally bringing everything home to Troy, Alabama, where we'll distill whiskey. We're already currently bottling the product here in Troy, and we'll also have a restaurant and bar and event space and gift shop and tasting room and just really anything you'd expect to see at a distillery on the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky, but just right here in Troy, Alabama instead.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
it's just whiskey?
Right now, whiskey and
Whiskey
bourbon.
and bourbon.
I won't rule out, maybe doing some moonshines or some stuff like
Okay.
that. But as we sit today, whiskey and bourbon, yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So two things you mentioned in your kind of opening explanation.
Yeah.
One, you're a grandson
Yeah,
of Clyde May himself.
that's right.
And then two, you've been legally selling /
Since-
producing since 2021. So give us the backstory. Tell us about Clyde May, your grandpa, and what he may or may not have been doing
Right.
prior to 2021.
Oh, we can talk about it now. So it's pretty much all out in the open.
Yeah.
There's no hiding it anymore. But my grandfather was born and raised right in this area and on the Bullock and Pike County lines. So his address was Union Springs, but you could throw a football from his front yard and land it in Pike County, and that would have been Troy. So he just happened to be on the Union Springs side. But he had a pretty tough life when he was young. He was born in 1922 to a single mother, never knew his father, and his mother died when he was 5 years old. So he was raised by his grandparents during the Great Depression. They had other kids at home, so needless to say, he went to bed many nights hungry, and that's always worth, in my mind, talking about and mentioning, because he did not let that deter him in a negative way. If anything, it was a motivational tool to want to provide a better life for his future family. He didn't want his future kids going to bed hungry like he did, so he was bound and determined to do whatever it took to provide a more comfortable life for his family. Unfortunately, just in the time and place he grew up, seeking higher education or doing things that a lot of us have the opportunity to do, he didn't have those same opportunities. So he met my grandmother. They got married. Not long after they were married, he signed up with the U.S. Army and fought in World War II, fought in the Southwest Pacific Theater. He was injured in battle, came home, received a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart. He always had a full-time day job. He was always had his hands in some kind of cattle farming or hay farming. He was in the timber industry for a number of years, along with a variety of other things. But in 1946, in addition to a day job, he started making moonshine whiskey, and he never sold a legal bottle in his entire life. It was never his dream or aspiration to do what we're doing today because, like I said, he was in a time and a place where that wasn't possible.
Yeah.
I know in today's time you watch TV shows where they're making moonshine and then they have a legal brand on the shelf the next week. It was never his aspiration to go and even try to do it legally. He was
just trying to make some
he
money
was just trying to
and
make
making
some
meat,
money.
ends
Yeah.
meet.
And while it was something he did as a source of income, just his mentality and the way he was raised and what he grew up on. He was a firm believer that no matter what you're doing in your life, you better give it your best effort. In other
Mm.
words, your reputation is attached to the product you produce in your life. So he didn't care if he was making whiskey or building birdhouses. If in his mind, his reputation was attached to it. So he did many things that helped separate himself from the other large amount of moonshiners in the area. Now they were all friendly with each other. It wasn't like, Hollywood shooting at each other
Yeah.
kind of thing or anything like that. But
Almost.
he just let his product do the talking for him. He did the things that he needed to do to produce a better product and became quite notorious for it. And the only time between 1946 and his death in 1990 that he wasn't making it illegally is when he was in prison for 8 months for making it illegally. So he got arrested in
Mm.
1972, got sentenced to 2 years, served 8 months, got out for good behavior, and went right back to making whiskey up until the day he died.
Wow.
And my father continued to make it illegally after he kind of picked up. My dad was the youngest of the children. It's probably worth mentioning. I should have mentioned it earlier. By the time it was all said and done, Clyde May and my grandmother had 8 children. So
Oh,
a
wow.
lot of mouths to feed in rural
Yeah.
southeast Alabama. My dad was the youngest. Uh, it was 4 sons, 4 daughters. All the sons at some point in their life, contributed and made alcohol and whiskey with their father. With my dad being so much younger than the rest of them, he, was really set in a position to continue to make it illegally. And I mentioned earlier, I can talk about it because it's, done with now. But
Yeah.
my dad didn't stop making it illegally until I was a freshman in college.
Oh,
So
wow.
I've been around whiskey making both legally and illegally my entire life. I'm just trying to break the family tradition of, getting arrested now and just doing it by the book and, paying taxes and doing all that we need to do now by the book. But in 2001, one of Clyde's sons, my uncle Kenny May, who was local here to Troy, he actually, prior to 2001, set out with the intention of he wanted to build the state's first ever distillery, and he wanted to distill Clyde May's whiskey using Clyde's aged whiskey recipe, which locals refer to as his Christmas whiskey because it was usually something he had ready around Christmas time. And Kenny more or less battled the state of Alabama for a handful of years, and they kept telling him, "We're not going to let you build a distillery." So distillation of spirits was completely illegal at that time.
Oh, wow.
There were 0 distilleries in the state of Alabama in 2001. So at that time, he made a tough decision, but a decision we're glad he ultimately made. He started producing the whiskey outside of Alabama using my grandfather's recipe. And that's how the legal brand got started back in 2001. So we like to say available since 1946, legal since 2001. So in 2000, we were very, very small. He was getting started. He was trying to grow the brand. It was originally known as Clyde May's Conecuh Ridge Whiskey. We have since flip-flopped it to make sure the focus is more on the man, Clyde May. So that's why the name of our distillery is Conecuh Ridge Distillery.
Okay. Oh, okay. I was wondering that actually.
Just as a little sidebar, because I get asked all the time, and your listeners or viewers are going to probably be thinking it. We are not in Conecuh County. Kudos to everything Conecuh Sausages do, and they make a great product. But the name Conecuh Ridge comes from the fact that the headwaters of the Conecuh River start in Bullitt County, and the creeks and streams that help form those headwaters flow through our family property. So locally, that area was known as the Conecuh Ridge. So,
Okay.
but to everybody
That's
else
cool.
in the state of Alabama, when they hear Conecuh, they think Conecuh
Conecuh-
County.
Yeah.
And if
sausage.
they see it from outside of Alabama, they don't even pronounce it correctly.
That's right.
It's everything except Conecuh. So, Kenny maybe didn't do his full marketing research on that when he was deciding the name, but we're proud of it nonetheless. And in 2004, legislation was passed naming us the official state spirit of Alabama, which was just a crazy thing at the time because we couldn't even make it in Alabama. and they
Yeah.
named us the official state spirit.
How does that happen?
The legislators, some local to here, that got together and created that measure. A lot of them argued it was more so. First off, they did it sort of in a, they were being somewhat humorous about it. They didn't see any harm behind it.
Yeah.
But they also, in their mind, looked at it as the spirit of the man, Clyde May, versus the spirit of the whiskey. They felt that Clyde May embodied, everything Alabama worked hard, provided for his
Yeah.
family, you know, didn't care for excuses, didn't give excuses, just did what had to get done. And the governor at the time, Bob Riley, actually vetoed that measure, and then they overrode his veto to keep it
Oh,
the
wow.
official state spirit of Alabama. Alabama was the first state in the U.S. to designate an official state spirit. There's a handful of states that have an official beverage like milk or apple juice or something like that, but Alabama was the first to have an official state spirit, which caught the attention of the nation. There was
Yeah.
kind of a brief moment there where the Wall Street Journal did a story about it, and the Chicago Tribune, and Saturday Night Live made a joke about it on their,
Really?
on their evening
That's cool.
update or whatever they do at the end there. So that was probably at the time for sure the most attention the brand had ever gotten. But despite that, it was still very small, and we had, for lack of a better word, somewhat of a roller coaster up and down history from essentially 2005 to about 2012. For all intents and purposes, I'll call a spade a spade. The family kind of thought the brand was done for. We didn't. The family was always behind it, supporting it, but Kenny was the one who had actively pursued and tried to grow the brand. So it wasn't until around 2012 that the more people got behind it, because you can have the best product on earth, but if you don't have the know-how and the people behind it to help get it in front of people, no one's
Yeah.
going to know about it.
For sure.
So I consider 2012 sort of our rebirth, if you will, of the brand. And in that time frame from 2012 to 2026, we've grown into a national brand. We're available in all 50 states. We're available in a handful of countries. We've kind of rode that bourbon boom that we hit between 2014 and 2024, kind of that 10-year stretch. But in 2014, the state finally legalized distillation of spirits, and that was our opportunity to come home. Having said that, we were in the midst of our rebirth, so we could have built a distillery right away, but we could have probably fit half of it in this room right here in this vault. I mean, it wouldn't have been, and not that there's anything wrong with that at all, but it was important to us to do things the right way, the Clyde May way. And in doing so, we had to make some tough decisions and, take our time, find the right property, do everything we needed to do. So 2017 was kind of the start, or really 2016 was the start of a process of working with the state of Alabama, meeting with 25 different cities. It probably goes without saying, but Troy had a leg up on the competition due to proximity to Clyde's home place, but we still wanted to be fair to everyone and met with mayors and city councilmen and local officials. And we made the decision in 2017 to bring it home to Troy. And that's when the real work started. We had to line up architects and designs and equipment and get everything done. And it's taken maybe a little bit longer than me or anyone else would have hoped, but I wouldn't change any way that it's been done, because it had to take that long in order for us to do it the right way.
Yeah.
We are not, even though when people look at us, they try to put us in the same category as some of these large, brands that are owned by major companies, which we want to be in that conversation from a quality point of view. But in terms of what they bring to the table, they have millions at their disposal. We're a small privately owned company. So we really had to work and do what we needed to do to get to the point of where we are at today. And even though, like I said, it maybe took a little bit longer, we did it the right way. We have the largest distillery in the state of Alabama. It'll be one of the largest in the Southeast outside of Tennessee and Kentucky. It's a distillery, a bottling facility. Uh, It'll be gift shop, tasting room, bar, restaurant, event venue on roughly 78 acres of property here in Troy. So, um, you know, good things happen to those who wait, or
Mm-hmm.
that's what I keep telling
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Yeah.
When I'd get stopped in the grocery store the last 5 years and keep getting
And
asked,
everyone's asking you,
when's it
hey.
gonna open? I told myself that, but I'm very proud of where we are. We're still kind of crawling before we walk, so to speak, but we are well on our way.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Okay, so before the kind of rebirth era, where were y'all distilling
Yeah.
the spirits?
We started distilling in Kentucky. That's where
Kentucky.
Kenny
Okay.
started distilling
Okay.
everything. And we distilled in Kentucky at a few different facilities because when Kenny started, there was no bourbon boom. The bourbon shelf in a liquor store was probably the length of this table. It was,
Mm-hmm.
whereas today it's probably 15 of these tables. It's uh, at that time, vodka was really the hot spirit. So um, we were what's called contract distilling. Some people call it sourcing, but at the time that Kenny was doing it, no one even knew what that meant. No one had a reason to contract distill or source. We had to because of legality reasons. Um, and we, worked with a variety of distilleries there in Kentucky. And then up until about 2015, we switched our operations to a distillery in Indiana that could kind of fill our needs better because as we were growing and also the bourbon boom was going on, we had to find someone that could do everything to our specifications and make a quality product. So it's a place in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. For anyone listening that's, a bourbon freak, they've probably
Mm-hmm.
heard of it. It's called MGP,
Okay.
Midwest Grain Producers. And but now everything that we currently have has been distilled there, but most of what we have has been aging on the property here in Troy, and then we've been bottling everything in Troy since October of last year. So we're
Okay.
currently at the point where everything you see on the shelf says bottled Troy, Alabama,
Yeah.
and won't be long before it'll be distilled and bottled in Troy, Alabama.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're a pretty young guy,
yeah,
and I'm hearing you tell all these stories, and you know the history so well.
right,
I mean, 2012, 2014,
yeah.
or even before that, 2000. When?
One, yeah.
Okay, I want to know one about your childhood
Yeah,
because you talked about your dad kind of doing it
yeah,
illegally, but everybody sort of helped out.
yeah.
Like, what was that like as a kid? And then when did you sort of officially? I know surely you never tasted any whiskey until you.
Well, it's well, I'll
Did y'all
say,
like use it as medicine?
yeah,
Like, oh, just a
exactly.
dab a little.
It's I can't remember the exact moment that I kind of figured out or was told, that what my dad was doing, in terms of moonshine. And I know I was very young. I was,
Mhm.
around that 6, 7, 8 mark. I was young because there's not really hiding it. He's got a lot of it out in the shed and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And it's like, why would you keep gallons of water in the shed? It's not water, it's moonshine. So,
Mhm.
and with me being my grandfather's namesake, so my grandfather was Lewis Clyde May. I'm Lewis Clyde May, and I unfortunately never got to know my grandfather. So I spent my whole life and still am where I've had kind of this obsession with trying to know the man never got to know, so to
Yeah.
speak. So and part of that, of learning, that my dad was making it, opened up a new door of learning more about Clyde May the man and how he got started and what he did and what made him different, and how my dad continued to do that the same way, the same quality, and, uh, your reputation being attached to what you sell and everything. And it wasn't long after hearing and learning all of this. Uh, One, I learned very quickly, keep your mouth shut. It's this isn't something you go to
Yeah.
school and tell your buddies kind of thing. But in addition to that, it didn't take me long at all before I was like, well, I want to be a moonshiner when I grow up. And my mom, who's now a retired school teacher, but was a school teacher at the time, she didn't love hearing that.
I'm just picturing you like a career day at school. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
And I truly, in my heart, and still to this day, uh, cannot think of anything I wanted to do more in my life than make moonshine like my dad and my grandfather. So I became obsessive to where I'd want to go to the still with my dad, and he waited a while before, but whenever he felt it was appropriate, and I don't know if it was ever appropriate, but comfortable for me to go with him to the still, and he'd throw a 50-pound bag of sugar on my shoulder or whatever, just kind of teach me the lay of the land. And those are, as wild or as hillbilly as it may sound, those are some of the best memories of my life is, doing stuff at the still with my dad and getting to experience that. And I won't say the age, but I had been begging my dad for quite some time to let me try, what's all this about. And I'll say I was at an age where my liquid diet was something like Capri Suns and Sunny D or something. It was not, my palate was not ready for
Right.
what was packing, and I remember tasting it and I thought I was going to die. And he probably gave me what was the equivalent of an eye drop, but in my mind, he gave me the equivalent of a gallon. I mean,
Yeah.
but man, oh man, I probably think I ran in the house and like chased it with like chocolate milk or something, just whatever I could
Why
find.
do people want
Why
this?
do people want this? But he was doing it to provide for his family, me and my sister and my mother, but he also felt that was his way of honoring his father.
Yeah.
Kenny's way was telling the story and starting it legally. My dad's way was continuing to make it in the woods. And people are baffled by, okay, your dad was making it illegally when the brand was legal, and for starters, the family never expected it to get to where it is today. They didn't quit their day job, so to speak. And kudos to Kenny for having that vision. And I'll always give him his flowers on that because I don't think anyone would have ever expected it to get to this. But, my dad felt like he had to honor Clyde in his own way. And so I got to be around that a good bit. Truthfully, though, there were, just like with anything in life, but particularly something you're doing illegal, there's the good and the bad. My dad doesn't make it anymore because he got arrested 3 times for doing it. And each one of those times, it took a toll on me and my family. And which, maybe there was a time in my life where I didn't appreciate moonshining like I did at other points in my life. But as I've gotten older, I've come to respect that comes with the territory. He was just like Clyde. Clyde sat in a jail cell for 8 months, and he didn't whine or cry about it. He got out and started making it again because at the end of the day, they're making a good product. And so I'm kind of past that at the point now to where I'm very proud of what my dad stood for, what Clyde stood for, because they were not your stereotypical moonshiners where they're drinking all night, staying up next still. I mean, my dad was, and Clyde too, but they were waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, going to work, working in the hay field or working in the woods, cutting timber or whatever, and then getting home at 6:30, and then going to the still and making a run. And then, I mean, it was a hard life, and I've been, Clyde did it to give his son a better life, which he did, and my dad did it to give a better life for me. I was able to go to college and pursue a higher education and break the family tradition and, do things by the book. But, the blood, sweat, and tears they lay down before me is really what motivates me today to tell the story of not just Clyde May, but the May family, because I know a lot of people have hey, my granddad made moonshine or my great granddad, and that's great and everything. But in our part of the world, it was part of my life and a real life thing, in an era where a lot of people thought it was, when people think moonshine, they think prohibition.
Mm-hmm.
Every bottle, every drop the May family has ever distilled illegally was done post prohibition from 1946 all the way until my dad stopped doing it in 2013. So, it's for better or for worse. It's been a part of my life, and it's made me who I am today.
Yeah. There's so much symbolism and like entrepreneurial spirit in the whole story. I feel like people think about, oh, that's so cool, like
Yeah.
a whiskey distillery and moonshine. And wow, they're like it's like this glamorous thing because all you do is just like hang out and drink
Yeah,
all day, right?
yeah.
But
Trust me,
this,
that's what all my friends think I do from
know.
college. They think I hang out and
Yeah,
drink
you
all
just get to
day.
go to all
Yeah.
the parties
And like I
and
tell
like
them,
visit the liquor
I
stores.
tell them I only drink when I'm on the clock. So it's that's it.
That's so funny. Yeah, but it's awesome to hear the story because it's clearly like your dad and your grandpa were very entrepreneurial and like what they were doing was just pure grit and resilience and working through the challenges to build something for their family. And that's what y'all are continuing to do, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me about how your family's involved right now. I know you said your dad kind of quit doing it.
Yeah.
Your uncle's been kind of the main.
My uncle Kenny May, the original founder, he died in 2017. So
Okay.
he passed away. So he hasn't been involved for that reason for some time. The family support has always. I was the only one young enough to kind of form it into a career, if that makes
Okay.
sense. Because
Yeah.
my dad was the youngest of 8. His oldest sibling is 21 years older than him.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
I'm my dad's youngest child, so I'm bar none the youngest grandchild. And that's no disrespect to any of my cousins listening. You're young and healthy and
Yeah.
great too. I'm the one that feels like an old man sometimes. But so with that, the May family, like I said, the children, the grandchildren, they've always just really kind of just rooted from the sidelines.
Yeah.
They don't. In other words, they don't have a day job like I do
Gotcha.
day to day with the brand. Now, I will tease something. I've talked about it a little bit in private circles, but I don't mind talking about it now. But
Ooh, okay.
yeah,
Exclusive
yeah,
report.
exclusive. Yeah, a bit of an exclusive report here for sure. So, at our distillery, we sell product in our gift shop, and it's most of what you get there. Stuff that are readily available items. Here soon, we will start rolling out what we're calling distillery exclusives, meaning that you can't get them anywhere except at the distillery. And maybe not the first project, but one of the first distillery exclusives we are going to offer to people. We're calling it Clyde May's the Descendants Edition, and it's going to be an 11-year-old straight bourbon where the barrels are barrels that me and my father picked together.
Wow.
And it'll have his name on the bottle and my name on the bottle.
That is cool.
So that'll be a distillery exclusive, and that'll be kind of bringing my dad into it legally a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't
That's
think his
awesome.
rap sheet allows him to do it. The way he probably wants to.
Yeah.
And Lord knows he's good at it, but it's he's been retired long enough now. So
Yeah.
if he wasn't retired, I wouldn't be talking about it. This would half of what I've talked about wouldn't have been said. But
Yeah.
So we're calling it the Descendants Edition.
That's cool.
We do plan to make it kind of an ongoing thing where like this one will be called like Family Release number 1, and it's an 11-year-old straight bourbon. Family Release 2 might be a completely different bourbon. Maybe it's an 8-year-old, but it's the mash bill's completely different. There's just going to be different variations, but it'll all be stuff that myself and my father pieced together for the product.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look forward to that.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Okay, so I know you travel a lot. You're the brand ambassador, sales guy. You're kind of like the face of the brand, mostly.
Yeah.
So, do you get to do much of the hands-on? Do you get to get into the distillery and do any of the distilling?
Yeah, it's we haven't started distilling quite yet. It
Okay.
will be something that I will be a part of.
Okay.
We have a great team. We have 2 guys that are uh, veterans in this industry. I'll be learning from them because, distilling in the woods and distilling, at our
In the
distillery,
distillery,
uh,
probably
in
different.
terms of the finished product, it's all hand in hand. But in terms of what you do to get to that finished product, it's probably, pretty different.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my long term goal
Okay.
is distillation and I'm hands on now because we batch everything there, bottle everything there.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm not running the roads, you might find me at the distillery helping bottle stuff and
Mm-hmm.
stack cases and do what needs to get done in that arena. But I tell people all the time I feel like a phony because I'm not making whiskey. I'm a May that's not making whiskey.
Yeah.
So I gotta get in there and do that.
Yeah.
Outside of that, though, just my day to day role is just, sales and meeting with accounts and customers. And this is truly a job where I never know what each day is going to bring. And I mean that in both the good and the bad. You never
Mm-hmm.
know when something's going to go wrong because Alabama's a control state. So everything's done through a state warehouse. So you never know. You might get a call where it's like, hey, you had 300 cases came in, and for some reason the barcode's not scanning. You're going to have to come in here and re-sticker and then restack and
Mm-hmm.
rewrap all 300. Or you might get a call, hey, I have this product in my cocktail, and for some reason my wholesale store is out of it, even though you have plenty of inventory in Montgomery. So I'm driving to Montgomery, picking up a case there, and driving it to Birmingham or Tuscaloosa or Mobile or Demopolis or Eufaula or wherever it may be. So you never know um, what each day brings in that regard. So it's with a company this size, we all wear many hats. To quote, an event that you were at with your wonderful husband Kyle. Shameless plug there,
Shout out, Kyle.
shout out Kyle at the distillery. I was bartending that night.
Yeah.
And I'm not a bartender, but I was bartending that night. So. Just a little bit of everything. But when I started out of college, I was the national brand ambassador, and I helped with the day-to-day sales with my counterpart Brian Chandler. But I wasn't home a lot. I was in between June of 2017 and right up till whenever COVID started. I'd been to like 40 states for work-related reasons, and most of those states had been to multiple times. Texas,
Mm-hmm.
California,
Mm-hmm.
Florida. Been to Alaska twice.
Wow.
So just all over. To tell the story of Clyde May. To get his name out there to teach the world about Clyde. But at the end of the day, the most important state is our home front here in Alabama. So it was important for me to kind of, get the travel, bug out of me a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and settle down. And
Mm-hmm.
I still travel, like we were talking offline. I'll be in Virginia this week, but I don't have to travel near to the extent in terms of getting on an airplane than I used to do. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Have you been to a lot of other distilleries?
Yeah, a pretty good bit. When people think of distilleries, they think of Kentucky, and I've been to, what's really cool about this industry is, there's competition, but nobody bashes one another.
Right.
And Clyde May did the same thing. He let his product do the talking for him because he was a firm believer. At the end of the day, if you have faith in your product, you don't have to talk about somebody else's. Let your product do the talking for you. And that's what's really fun about this industry. We all run the same circles. We all get along. We all trade bottles and, hey, come see my distillery and stuff. So I've been fortunate to see some pretty cool distilleries, not just in Kentucky, but around the country, because there's bourbon being made in all 50 states now. So I haven't been to a distillery in every state I've visited, of course, but I've been to a lot of really cool places and gotten to experience that.
Is there one that's like sticks out to you?
One of the first ones I ever went to was Woodford Reserve in Kentucky, and it's just a beautiful distillery, and the same firm that designed that one designed ours, which I went there before that transpired, so it was just kind of full circle there. And then trying to think of any that were really just unique and stuck out to me. There's a distillery in Charleston, South Carolina called Highwire. It's kind of not too far from downtown Charleston, so it's not your typical like on a lot of acreage kind of place, but they do a really good job and make a
That's cool.
unique bourbon. That was a fun one to visit and see and go to. But like I said, I've been to so many.
Yeah.
It's hard to kind of keep them
Yeah.
all in my head, but they all bring something different to the table, which is the point. You want to, you don't want to see the same thing over and over
Yeah,
again.
for sure. So, a little bit of a business question
Yeah.
here. Obviously, the facility, the property is beautiful. You're very much in the community. I know you get hit up a lot for like
Yeah.
donations and can you
Right.
sponsor this? And I know a lot of businesses kind of deal with that of
Right.
and oh, can you? I mean, I've hit you up. Kyle's hit you up.
Yeah.
Like, can you
Yeah.
donate some bottles to our
Yeah.
silent auction? How do you? But at the end of the day, you're running a business. You need to turn a profit at some point. So
Yeah.
how do you kind of manage that and balance that as far as what you're giving back or donating to the
Right.
community versus trying to get people in purchasing regularly,
Right.
things like that?
The way I see it, the way I've always viewed it, and I don't know, it could be wrong. I don't know, right, wrong, or indifferent, is that by helping the community, not just this community, but just helping any cause that I feel is an important cause, you're not only helping that cause, but you're introducing your product to a whole subset of people that maybe never even heard of it. Even if they don't get to taste it, people that are involved intimately with that organization say, well, hey, Clyde May stepped up to the plate and they helped out. They helped out with our cause, and I'm going to support them because
Yeah.
they supported us. So I think it's just, helping each other out in that regard. We're not in a position where you will, as of right now, you won't see us as the title sponsor of any kind of, major event or
Yeah.
anything. But anytime someone reaches out and they're like, hey, listen, we're raising money for this or that, we do everything we can to at the very least give them some silent auction or something,
Yeah.
items that can be used to benefit the cause. And in a lot of those instances, I'll set up, they'll ask me to come do a tasting or something, and that's
Mhm.
where I can do sort of that what we call liquid to lips and introduce
Mhm.
people to the product. So it comes full circle. Obviously, just like with anything with marketing or sales, you have to give a little to get a little, and that's sort of been
Mhm.
my philosophy. And we've seen it pay off. I can't tell you how many times I've met someone that's like, hey, I was introduced to your product at this organization that you
Mhm.
did a tasting at, and I've been a supporter ever since. When I go to the store, I drink Clyde Mays. I love what you're doing. So it all comes back
It comes
around.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Well, that's a good outlook to have.
Yeah.
I know we struggle with like just talking to people and students and people in the community and asking for donations. It's always
Right.
kind of a weird balance that people are trying to manage.
For us, we have to be careful on our end because we're a liquor at the end
Yeah,
of the
that's
day.
true.
So
Yeah.
like I can't sponsor your little league baseball
Yeah.
team. You know what I mean? So it's I have to be very cautious of but and that's both a good and a bad thing. I just truthfully speaking, being in Alabama, as what some people would call the Bible Belt. There is some hesitancy sometimes with alcohol. I will say I have very little experience with any level of hesitancy because I think people understand that I'm trying to help them. I'm not out to do anything
Mhm.
harmful. And I try to do that in the way of Clyde May because he was a firm believer in using what he had to help others. I've heard numerous stories of where there would be a gentleman in the community that got injured somehow and wasn't able to work, and this was before the days of being able just to go and try to get workers comp or
Mhm.
disability or anything like that. And Clyde would miss a car payment to write a check and give it to his neighbor to help others. So I look at it through that lens
Yeah.
of like, what would Clyde want? And is this a good cause? Is it the right cause? And so that's why I don't mind, helping out. But I do see the dilemma it can cause sometimes. You don't want to give too much. There's got to, at the end of the day, we have our costs too, particularly in Alabama, our sample bottles, we can't just pull like I know we have a distillery, and people just think, oh yeah, I got all the free alcohol in the world.
Yeah.
When if I give somebody a bottle for silent auction, I have to go to the store and pay for it, just like you would if you went and bought it.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so that's something that a lot of people don't realize,
Yeah. No, probably not. They
and
probably just you just have a closet and you
I
can
was
just
like,
go grab
yeah,
one.
like they think I'm always just packing in my car, I got, but every sample bottle is beloved and used to some degree
Yeah.
when we use
You
it
mean you
for
don't
sure.
just have like a briefcase in your trunk of like
I mean, technically,
bottle?
yeah, but the bottles there were purchased,
Yeah.
so it's, um, but like I said, we have been in situations where I've had to politely tell someone that unfortunately, but normally it's only because what they're seeking is just past what I'm able to provide them.
Yeah.
There's very few instant if they're just looking for some kind of silent auction bottle or something or a tasting, that's easy. If I'm
Mhm.
available and can do it, that's fine. But when it's like, hey, you want to be the title sponsor of this, it's like, as we said
Right.
today, that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for
Yeah.
us. But I never just tell them, hey, no. I try to say, hey, I can't do this, but I'm happy to do this.
Mhm.
Here are the parameters of what I'm able to do, especially if it's something that's for an important cause. I try to do everything I can to
Yeah.
do something for them.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. All right. So just to kind of wrap it up a little bit, tell us a little bit about what people I know you're still kind of getting things going. You
Right.
don't quite have the kitchen ready, but you do have the gift shop open.
Yes.
You can book events, and we've had some
Yes,
events
yeah,
that
you can book
okay.
events. We're full blown. If you want to book an event, you can go to our Facebook page. We have
Okay.
all that information there with an email of who you can reach out to specifically for an event. Our gift shop and tasting room are open. You can go on our website, ClydeMays.com, our Facebook or Instagram, which is at Clyde Mays Whiskey, and you can use those as to
Mhm.
access booking a tasting, or you can come
Are y'all doing
during
tours?
tours. Not quite
Maybe. Okay. Not
yet.
quite yet. Okay.
The one of the buildings where the building where we will distill everything. They're still finishing some welding there, so we don't
Okay.
have the certificate of occupancy
Gotcha.
yet. But
Gotcha.
that'll be very soon. Just in general, follow us on Facebook, our website, and we'll be making all of our announcements of when tours will start, when the restaurant will be open, when the
Mhm.
bar will be open,
Mhm.
and all of those things will be soon. I know
Okay.
a lot of people, especially locals listening, I get asked all the time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the joke I make is, when you're dating someone, they ask you when are you going to get married, and then you get married. When are you going to have a
Yeah.
kid? Then you
Oh
have a
yeah.
kid when you. So for us, it was when's the distillery going to open? We get the gift shop and tasting room
Mhm.
open. Now when's the restaurant going to be open? We get. So there's always going to be questions I have
Right.
to answer, but I'm just happy to be at a point now to where I can let people know that we're very close, and we're at a point where you can come out and see the facility, walk around, come
Mhm.
and see it, come experience a tasting. We have a really cool experience doing that. We have a great gift shop. If you have any kind of event you're wanting to host, with all due respect to other event venues in the area, I think ours is pretty
It's
unique.
very unique.
Yeah,
Yes, it's
so you gotta
beautiful.
come and check it out for sure.
Yes, definitely go. Okay, so go do a tasting.
Yeah.
Students only if you're 21 or up. Go do a
That
tasting.
that should go without anything to do with alcohol. Now,
Just
you don't have,
disclaimer.
you don't have to be 21 and over to visit the gift shop, but
Yeah.
if you want to take part in a tasting, 21 and over, please.
The gift
Yes.
shop is awesome. We have shopped at the gift shop a few
Yes.
times, me and Kyle. And yeah, we've been to a couple of events there. It's an amazing facility, so definitely go check it out and follow Clyde Mays on social media so you can get the updates as they roll
As
out.
they roll out, yeah.
New experiences. I guess for like my last final question, this interview was a little bit more unique than some of our others.
Yeah.
A lot of what we do in the vault is try to kind of share resources through storytelling for
Right.
students and people in the community who have their own unique idea and they want
Right.
to start it up. So I always ask our guests at the end, what's one piece of advice you might give someone who may be in that position where they're either trying to start a business or have something unique and new that they want to go for?
Right. That's a great question, and I think you know me well enough to know that if I'm going to answer it quite honestly and truthfully,
Yeah.
I've learned from being the grandson and son of a moonshiner and working with the legal brand and trying to get this distillery open, I've learned a lot of hard life lessons. And when you try to do something, there's always going to be criticism. There's always going to be some level of, I hate to say it, but someone rooting against you. Success fuels hate. I'm sure you get people on here that quote presidents or some refined people, but I'm going to take a moment and quote the comedian Cat Williams, and he talks about that if you don't have haters, you're not working hard enough.
Yeah, I love
And
that. That's so true.
Don't let, and because we live in a society, especially with social media, where it's so easy for people to be critical and even do it in a way to where you don't even know who it is that's being critical of you. So, and I can't tell you how many times, as we've tried to open this distillery, and I'll just read comments and stuff like that, and it hurts me because of how much I care about it. It's because of how much it means to me. But I've had to come to learn that I know what we stand for. I know what I stand for. And anything in life, you're going to have to persevere. You're going to have to. I've never met a successful person in my life that didn't have some sort of trial and tribulation and blood, sweat, and tears and what they had to do. And not only have I gone through that, and this brand and the people who have worked for it gone through it, but my dad, Billy May, and sure as Lord Clyde May did too. And what we're building, what we're doing it on the backs of the people before us that have worked hard. And I would just encourage people, if you're out there, if you've already started something or you're looking to do something, for starters, don't do it unless you believe in it, because you got to absolutely put your heart and soul into it. And it seems silly to talk about, but you got to work hard. I mean, I don't mean to say it, but work ethic is something that's just kind of a dying art, right?
Yeah.
In our world right now, you don't listen to the doubters. If you believe in it, but stick your feet firm in the ground and fight and persevere and go through that grit and blood, sweat, and tears, and you'll be so much more proud of the results if you do it that way too. So, simply put, haters are gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate.
Haters are gonna hate, and just
in
get
the words
through.
Of my girl, Taylor Swift.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just
that's awesome.
So just persevere, get through it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Elsie.
Thank
This was
you.
an awesome interview. I learned a lot about your family, about Clyde Mays, and I know the listeners did too, and appreciate getting to know you guys a little bit more. So go support Clyde Mays. We're so happy that you guys are here in Troy.
Thank you.
And thanks again for joining us in the vault.
No, thank you for having me. It'd been cool to have one of these vaults back in Clyde's day. You would have had a better place to hide some stuff.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
At least I can do a podcast in it now, so that's even cooler. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. All right, another great interview from inside of the Idea Vault. We thank LC for joining us today. It was so fun getting to learn the history of Clyde Mays. I don't know if many people realize the real history of it, so people with a history interest, this episode was for you. But at the same time, he really did share some great nuggets of entrepreneurial life lessons about persevering and working hard and sticking to what you believe in and believing in it even when other people don't. So definitely appreciate Elsie's time today. And the bottom line here is you guys need to go check out Conecuh Ridge Distillery, support Clyde Mays. They're not technically open for tours, but you can go to the facility. You can check out the gift shop. You can do a tasting. You can kind of walk around and get a glimpse of it. It's an amazing event space. They're building something really awesome, and it's right here in Troy. We're so lucky to have this right here in Troy. It's just going to get bigger. So go check it out and support them, support local. And until next time on the Idea Vault podcast, thanks for listening.